Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us on AADL TV for another episode of Biblio Files, a show where staff members take a few moments each week to chat all about books. My name is Amanda, and with me each week is Lucy and Christopher. And this week we are excited because we have special guest Pat with us. Hi, Pat. Welcome.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always fun when we have a guest to spice things up. This week, the big question we are pondering is, what is one of your favorite mystery books? Lucy, what did you bring for us?
So I wanted to talk about a book that I read last year called Winter Counts by David Heska Wanblee Wyden. And the reason that this book stands out to me is I've never really read anything like it, and I think it fills a hole. It takes place on the Rosebud Indian Reservation. David Wyden is part of the Lakota tribe, and so he is writing about this sort of, there's like this liminal space in the law on reservations where, like, if a certain felony happens, the tribal council can't, it doesn't go to them, it goes to the federal government. But the federal government usually ignores these cases. So there's all this crime that happens on these reservations. And so this book is about a character named Virgil Wounded Knee, and he is sort of a vigilante. People hire him to carry out their justice. He charges per broken bone. But the mystery comes in when their heroine arrives on the reservation, and his nephew, who he lives with and takes care of, is sort of involved peripherally with that. And so that's the mystery of the story, is where is that coming from? But I thought it was a great book because it utilizes the framework of a detective or crime mystery novel to sort of explore issues facing Native Americans and reservations. And, so it gets into like food scarcity and education, poverty, addiction, but then at the same time, it's also looking really closely at a lot of the spirituality and the culture there. So it was a great story, great characters. I just was so pleased to read something like this that I hadn't seen before. So that is called Winter Counts by David Heska Wanblee Wyden. Christopher, what did you pick?
Well, I was so happy to have this topic because I was looking for an excuse to read this book. My daughter and I had watched a lot of Miss Fisher's Murder Mysteries, and so I read the 1989 book by Carrie Greenwood, Cocaine Blues, and the library does have this. I've seen it and shelved it a few times. So Phryne Fisher is a 1920s detective who's very rich and worldly, smooth talking, and very elegant. She has lots of adventures. This was just her first one. One reason I like this book is because it's kind of the origin story of all of the recurring characters that are in all the books and throughout the whole series. So it's a lot of fun. It was fascinating to see the differences between the book and the first episode of the show. There are many, many differences. And, I think like a James Bond movie, you enjoy the book and the show for the characters and a little bit less about the plot. Sometimes I'm watching a movie and I think, oh, wait, why are we in Austria again? What's going on? The characters for me are what really drive the story, and I really enjoyed it a lot. So, Pat, you've read Carrie Greenwood?
I have. I've read the whole series, and I'm one of those people who, the purist reader person who I'm always very hesitant to watch the show for fear that it will ruin my image in my head. But I find it very separate. The show, to me, the character looks different. She talks different. It just has a different feel, and I completely enjoy it, and it's beautiful to watch. And I love the books as well. Yeah, good choice. But I don't know the usual format. Can I ask you a quick question on yours, Luz? Because that sounds like something that I would also really love, but I haven't read it. Is it a series or is it just a one?
It's his first book. I do believe it's going to be part of a series. I listened to an interview with him, and he switched his format. It was really interesting to hear, because it's like, it is a mystery. It's also crime fiction, but then he says it's in the style of a Western, which is like 3 separate acts. And you don't kill your main character at the end of a Western. That's not, so that he can create a series. So, which I'm excited about, because I think that the character of Virgil Wounded Horse was great. So yes.
Awesome. I'm in. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's fine. Pat, do you want to tell us about your pick?
I do. Mine is just classic mystery. Louise Penny, the Inspector Gamache series, who's extremely popular. But I'm a super mystery reader. I read all different kinds. I read a lot of the Indian reservation. There's a whole genre of those, and I'm very interested. I read a lot of historical, like the Franny Fishers, but I read cozies, set in Maine with gardening and cats and yarn, and also hard boiled. So it's my thing. It's what I do. So Louise Penny, when I read her, she transcends the mystery genre, and I know that's so trite, but it is very true. Her books are beautifully written. They make you think of way more than the mystery. The mystery itself is great, and she has really good plots and puzzles. Her characters are amazing. She brings you in with the setting, which is so cozy, set in Three Pines, where it's in Quebec. It's this fictional little town, but it is so wonderful. And the people who live in it are so great, but also so flawed. And you see yourself in all of them. And it's just a wonderful mystery in and of itself. The first one is called Still Life. And I really enjoyed it. But another part of it for me is that it isn't just written this mystery of itself. If you read the rest of her books, this book is just the beginning of a huge, I don't want to give anything away, other plot, and so intricate and beautifully written. I mean, some mysteries seem like they're just a one-off. Okay, I read, I had this idea, I wrote my book, this is a great mystery. But her book is that, as well as a huge part of something else. And that's all I'll say about that part of it. So super highly recommend it. She's great.
That's a good sell for the series.
Yeah.
I can't recommend it strongly enough. It's really wonderful. You learn a lot about yourself, believe it or not, when you read these books.
Awesome.
Amanda?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and share. So maybe 10 or 15 years ago, I was super into reading mysteries, particularly a variety of series with detectives leading the way. Kind of a nod to what Christopher was talking about, how you just fall in love with the characters. And I just would love these, especially the Nordic crime mysteries, the Scandinavian fiction, just those detectives who are just like dark and brooding with some issues going on in their life, but they've got to solve the case. And so I read a lot of those, like Arnaldur Indriðsson, Karen Fossum, Stieg Larsson, Ursula Seyer, the daughter, Henning Mankell. I love all of those. But for today, I thought I would read my most recent mystery book. I kind of fell off reading those books and focused on a bunch of other areas of reading. And I was reading more like suspense or thrillers or horror. So I chose a book that I read last summer called The Chalk Man. It's by T.J. Tudor, and it was a debut novel for the author. And I think it came out in 2016. No, 2018. It came in 2018. But the book is set in 1986 as well as 2016. And in 1986, Eddie and a group of his friends, a bunch of 12-year-olds, riding on bikes in the woods in the 80s. I was sold as like a read-alike for like Stranger Things and Stephen King and all of those like little boy adventure stories. Sign me up for those. So it's 1986. Eddie and his pals are on their little bikes riding around town. And one of the ways that they communicate with each other is a secret language involving chalk men. So they draw little chalk figures on the ground, and that's how they know like where to meet each other or what to bring to play or whatever. But then 1986, Eddie and his pals, there's a chalk drawing that they did not draw, and it leads them to the woods where they find a body. And that's not a spoiler. It just happens. So they find a body, and it changes that summer and their lives forever. And then the book is interspersed with chapters in present day 2016 with Eddie getting his life together, being an adult, but then the chalk drawings come back into his life and others' lives. And so it's very suspenseful. I give it like 3.5 out of 5 stars. It's very suspenseful. It kept me reading. I really wanted to know what was coming next. And I read it fairly quickly. I thought it was a good book. The Chalk Man by C.J. Tudor.
That sounds intriguing.
Yeah. Any other final thoughts for mysteries?
They all sound so good.
I want to get reading right now. Good recommendations, guys. Thanks.
Well, Pat, it sounds like you were the perfect person to be a guest on our mystery episode.
I won't lie. I approached Christopher with this because I'm like, we haven't done mysteries. Oh, my word.
That totally makes sense. Well, I think that's our episode for this week, talking about mysteries. We love talking about books. Pat, thanks again for being here with us today. If you have a great mystery book that you would like to give a shout out to, telling us we have to take a look at it, please drop a comment. There's a link below that pops you to our website. You can leave your comment there. We love the conversation. We've had a few good comments lately, so it's fun to keep talking about books with you viewers at home. Go ahead, like, subscribe, all that business, and we'll be back next time. Our next episode is a guilty pleasure read. I'm so curious to see what we pick for that. So, bye-bye, everybody. Thanks for joining with us. We'll see you next time.